What if your government was able to monitor your every single move, from the supermarket to walking down the street, from a crowded subway, anytime you were outside, just by a high-tech CCTV face recognizing system? It sounds pretty great in a way. I mean, you could track the bad guys, the murderers, the thieves, the scammers. I mean, to really protect our society or those who have ran away, someone that you want to find. This is a story of China's Bonnie and Clyde, where Bonnie was found 20 years later through a face recognition system, and the AI recognized the fugitive's face even 20 years later. But will this AI system be helpful to humanity or harmful? And do you think the Chinese version of Bonnie's life should be spared or not? This case is going to be so wild and so interesting. I have so many questions to ask you guys about what you think. And you guys all know whenever I do my videos, I am looking smoking hot. Was I being too narcissist? Yeah, maybe. I am liking my dark hair more than the lighter hair. What do you guys think? Do you guys prefer the light or the darker hair? They say those with a bit more fat in your cheeks, kind of like the cute image, you match more of the lighter hair color. So with the darker hair, your face seems to blend a lot better if you have structured face like this. You guys know I am able to keep my shiny and healthy hair 24/7 through my custom shampoo and conditioner from Function of Beauty. I've talked about Function of Beauty for over a year now, you guys. I have not and will not go back to the drugstore shampoo and conditioners. At Function of Beauty, you could take a quick hair quiz. For example, my profile is I have some wavy hair, it's a medium coarse, and my oil level and my scalp is normal. My goals with my hair is anti-freeze, nourish the roots, soothe the scalp, straighten and volumize my hair, which has done all of that above. There's no parabens, sulfates, it's 100% vegan and cruelty-free. Whenever I use cheap drugstore shampoos, it just strips away the natural oils from my hair and it is so coarse. Having a healthy hair also accentuates your natural beauty, and hair is still part of our body. It's still alive. So if you have not tried custom hair care yet, click the link down below to get 20% off your first order. So check Function of Beauty out and let's get back to the video. This is Rongzhi and Ziying. These two individuals met in 1993 when Fa was around 28 years old and Lao only being 19. They had almost a 10-year age gap, and that was a lot, especially back in the 80s and 90s, even in the 2000s, especially in the Asian culture that's not really fond of unless, you know, the guy has maybe, you know, a little bit of, you know, and he's been single all his life. So there are certain conditions to the age gap thing, especially in Asian culture. But regardless, to them, age was just a number and they quickly fell in love. Actually, too quickly. Lao was born in 1974 in Jingxi province. She was said to have grown up from a pretty normal life. It's not like her parents really struggled for money or like in poverty. She did have 4 other siblings and she was the youngest from 5-sibling family. She was also said to have better grades out of all her siblings, and her classmates remember her as a very innocent, kind-hearted person, and also she was very popular because she was really pretty. You see these photos, she is a very beautiful young lady here. She also never really liked to dress fancy or heavy makeup. She had that innocent image about her, which a lot of Asians like. Later on, she became teachers for the children in her province, and it was a job that really fit her well. It was at her friend's wedding when she met a man named Ziying. Fa was born in 1964 and was said to have grown up from a very poor family. His parents were also sick, and he was the youngest out of 7 children in the family. His family lived in a very poor neighborhood, even selling waste wood to survive. He loved to play sports and hang out with his friends more than he did with school and studying. And Fa's siblings say that they could not control Fa because he just had a fierce, uncontrollable personality since he was very young. At age 15, he started to get into bad behaviors, hanging out with the wrong crowd, and he ran into trouble with the law at only age 15 for robbery. He ended up spending a couple years in jail, in and out, until another serious larceny where he ended up spending 8 years in prison. So majority of his teens and mid-20s he spent in prison. Soon after being released, he was able to get married and had a child, and thought that his life was going to finally turn around for something good. Unfortunately, that marriage did not last long, and then that's when he went to a friend's wedding and met Lao. And this is when I believe her eyes just turned and fell in love with the bad boy Fa, who was just the total opposite of her. A little danger seems fun. Fa was literally the definition of your typical bad boy. He's been into prison, he was riding a motorcycle, he was married and divorced and has a kid, he has money where you don't know where it's coming from. You know, again, it seems a little dangerous. She fell in love with Fa's fearless, adventurous soul that she never had. And it was the day of the wedding when Fa invited Lao to take a ride in his motorcycle, and that's when their love started. Once Lao's siblings found out that she was dating Fa, they hated it. They did not like this guy. Again, he's not someone that you want to bring to your parents and be proud of. They didn't want an ex-felon older baby daddy. It was when she was dating Fa when she started to lack in her work. Remember, she was a teacher, but she wasn't really doing that work anymore. She was more focused on her relationship. And her family caught on to that, and they were actually wanting to confront Fa, but Lao was able to stop them and stand up for her bad boy boyfriend. On top of that, it was said that Lao tried to start her own business, and she herself started to struggle with money. They say you can tell a person's life by just looking at their friends and who they hang out with. Throughout their relationship, Lao started to see Fa getting into more trouble, such as getting into fights. But according to others, this turned her on even more and started to fall into devious ways herself. Eventually, she decided to run away from home with Fa. By this time, Lao was around 22 years old and they needed money for some reason. She didn't want to work for money. I think she saw how easy Fa was getting his money. Lao started to work at certain karaoke's and hostess bars, and their plan was to lure in men and rob them. It was said that Lao was actually very good at her job. I mean, she was beautiful. She had that confidence and something that a lot of these hostess bar men look for. I mean, a young, pretty girl with confidence coming to talk to you, who would reject? Their first victim was a married man who was said to be quite rich. We're gonna call him victim A. One day, Lao asked her victim to come to her home and fix her AC system. Once the victim came over to the apartment, this is when Fa immediately threatened the victim with a knife, tied him up, and stole his jewelry and cash. Come to find out, A did not have a lot of things with him and they were not satisfied with what he had. So Fa would threaten the victim to tell their address so that they could actually physically go there and steal whatever it was in their house. Victim A did not cooperate because victim A was married and had a kid, and he was afraid that Fa would do something to his own family. Fa's mentality was that if you are not going to give me the address, well, I'll find out no matter what. And he ended up maliciously killing victim A. You can tell this Bonnie and Clyde couple did not care. They had no mercy, and if you didn't comply, they had no problem ending their life. Then the couple took A's body parts and went to A's family home where his wife and daughter was waiting. They ended up stealing around $25,000 in cash and valuables, and then proceeded to end the family's lives as well, the wife and their daughter. There was no explanation of why they did this. Did the couple pre-plan to already end the victim's family's lives, or were they not cooperating, or did they feel like they were witnesses so they didn't want to keep them alive? When the police was investigating this case, they did get tips and clues on who the suspect might be, and they were actually looking into hostess bars and karaoke's. In one of these clubs and bars that the police had their eyes on, they saw that one of the employees were not coming to work. And this employee was under the name Jin. Police soon found out that Jin was a fake identity and the real woman was Lao Rongzhi. She was working under a fake identity all along, something so not a girl like Lao, a beautiful, innocent, humble background girl, would ever do. Lao and Fa were wanted by the police and they fled to another province. So after about a year, the fugitive couple decided to go back to how they were getting that quick cash. In 1997, Lau told Fa that one of her co-workers at the karaoke seemed to have some valuables. So one night, the couple secretly followed victim B to her apartment and again started to threaten her. Once she was threatened, B claimed that she did not have any cash at home and that it was all in her bank. Now, she would give her bank information, but to please spare her life. This is when Fa made a really weird exchange. He told B that if she was to call another friend that could help, another friend that had more money than her, then they would spare her life. So with a life and death decision, B had no choice but to call her coworker, who was a 29-year-old victim C. What would you guys do in this situation when you're being threatened with life and death and you have no choice but to pick one person to bring to your own home so that you could save yourself? It is an unimaginable thing what probably B was going through. C eventually ended up coming over, and again she was tied up and threatened. Now both of these girls said that they did not have any money and gave them their bank card. Fa stayed with the girls while Lau went to the bank to pull out money. Once Lau gave the green light to her boyfriend that she pulled out all the money, this is when Fa, with no questions asked, proceeded to kill both B and C. Of course, after this, the couple fled to another province. In 1998, the couple lured in another man named L. The same tactic as the first victim, where Lau lures in men and Fa just startles the victims. Once inside, Fa threatened the victims and victim L gave his car keys, which he said that there were some cash. They did take the cash, but it was so little that they were not satisfied. He once again threatened L to call his wife and tell him to bring money for emergency reasons. So the victim pretended to call his wife, saying that it was an emergency and he just really needed the money and that he will be meeting her at the bus stop. The next morning, his wife was to meet Elle at the bus stop, but it wasn't her husband, it was a random female, which of course ended up being Lau. So once she walked into the apartment and was trapped, she saw her husband tied up, begging for his life. For some particular reason, Fa ended up letting this couple go. He did say if you do call the police, he's going to find them and end their life. We don't know the reason, but Fa did spare their lives. According to the survivors, Fa and Lau did not communicate that much when they were doing the act. It meant that they practiced this so many times. It meant that they were so in tune with each other. They knew what to do just by looking at each other in their eyes. In 1999, in another province, the couple again used their old tricks to lure in men, but this time it was going to get even crazier and darker and another level. They actually bought a small cage that was supposed to be used for animals and put it inside their apartment. They also bought a fridge, whatever the reason that was going to be for. Again, in another nightclub that Lau started to work at, she successfully lured in a CEO. He was the boss of his own company and his name was Hua. Same thing, when the victim walked into the trap, Fa surprised the victim, and this time he put Hua inside of that animal cage. But this victim, Hua, had a different attitude than the other victims. It seemed like he was not scared of the suspects. He wasn't giving like the other victims, and Fa was having a very hard time getting money out of him. Now, Hua told Fa that he actually was not a rich man. He didn't have a lot of money and he had to borrow it from someone else. So he started to call up all his friends, and supposedly the people that he called up rejected the offer to lend him some money. So the couple were actually getting pretty frustrated because, you know, the more phone calls that you do, the more chance there is that people will pick up that there's something wrong with their friend and call the police. The crazy part about this is that the victim told Fa that he actually did not believe that he was gonna kill him. And Fa got really angry. He got so angry that he wanted to show Hua that he was indeed capable of this. So to show an example to the victim, Fa went outside and got a random man who ended up being a carpenter and lured him in, saying that, hey, I got some work that you could do at my apartment. Could you come in for a second? So this innocent carpenter ended up being lured in and trapped inside this house. And immediately when he walked in front of Hua, Fa maliciously started to stab the carpenter. After watching this, Hua finally started to kind of fear for his life and thought that he was really in a dangerous situation. So he called his wife and asked her to bring some money. Hua's wife picked up the fact that her husband would never borrow money or tell her to bring money. So she knew something was up. She knew his voice was weird, he was not coming home, and she called the police. While talking on the phone numerous times, the wife gave Hua an excuse of why she couldn't pull out the money fast enough, it's not really working, and she was just trying to buy some time. So next morning at 9 a.m., the wife was supposed to bring the money to a specific hotel that they arranged. Fa went out to get the money and the wife never came. The next day, they arranged another time to meet up, and Fa went out and didn't see the wife, and he was getting very frustrated. He wanted that money. So not being able to wait, Fa decided to go to Hua's apartment. Now by this time, the police were aware and the wife knew that she was in a dangerous position, and she was able to flee with her child to another safe location, knowing that the victims might be coming to her home. Before Fa left to Hua's apartment, he did feel like there is a risk of him getting caught. So he told Lao that if he did not come back by nighttime, it is most likely because he was arrested and that she needs to kill Hua in revenge and flee as fast as she can. Fa went inside Hua's apartment looking for valuables, and that's when police acted very quickly to try and catch the fugitive. Multiple police were waiting outside of the window and in front of Hua's apartment door, and that's when Fa was confronted by the police, but he was not giving up. Fa was just not cooperating, and the police had no choice but to bomb the door, and that's when finally Fa was arrested. The story goes that allegedly, since Fa did not return by nighttime, somehow Lao ended up killing Hua, and just before she fled, she ended up leaving a note that said, "Honey, I'm gonna flee as you told me to. I'll wait for you. I love you." Hua unfortunately was found dead inside of that apartment, and Lao was nowhere to be seen. When Fa was in custody, he never cooperated with them much. He didn't tell them details. Allegedly, when Fa heard that Lao was able to escape, that was one of the rare moments when Fa gave a smile to the police, as if he was really proud of his fugitive girlfriend. Fa was eventually sentenced to the firing squad in 1999. Lao fled to a new location, and she decided to go on with the quiet, anonymous life, living in someone else's identity, and one of the fake name was Sherry. For those 20 years that she went on to live her free, quiet life up to 2019, it was said that even her clients describe her as someone very gentle. She was good at her work. Again, she was very pretty. She knew how to talk to customers, make them come back. She was fun, and she was just someone like feel good to hang around with, especially in the night scene. And her coworkers and friends, those who know her as Sherry, just cannot imagine her doing anything bad because she just does not give off that vibe. According to this blog, they also say that she got some plastic surgery in order to hide from the police. She also took only public transportations and refused to go on any vacations outside of the province. Throughout the 20 years, she did date and she did have a couple boyfriends. In 2019, she met a client named Kay. They ended up dating each other, and Kay owned a watch shop in a shopping mall. On December 2019, Lao was asked by her boyfriend Kay to watch over his watch shop because he could not be there. She agreed, and she was walking around this mall, which little did she know that there was CCTV everywhere. These CCTV actually had a face recognition AI technology, and the police within hours were able to evaluate the AI system, and the AI system said that the face of this 47-year-old woman was 97.33% match of the wanted criminal, 27-year-old Lao. She was taken into custody, and at first she denied it, saying that what the hell is this AI system? That's not me. But only a day later, she did confess that indeed she was Lao Rongzhi. During the trial of Lao, Lao claimed that she was partially innocent because she actually was the victim of Fa, just like the others. Her side of the story goes that when she was dating Pho, she was being treated like a prisoner. She allegedly faced physical abuse, forced to give up her unborn child, and was forced to obey his orders or else. She feared that if she did not comply to Pho, that her own family would be in trouble because she knew what he was capable of. She also claimed that she was never present during the actual killings and only the robbery part. She testified in court saying that she was a gentle, kind person and can't even hurt an animal. Her family also claimed that, they cannot see their younger sister ever doing something like this, and that she had to be a victim of Pho's mastermind because this is not possible for their innocent daughter. Lau also said something really weird and controversial. She claimed that she was very sorry to the victims. She doesn't have any money to compensate the victims, so that she will start a crowdfunding instead. Kind of like a GoFundMe for the victims. Why should the public have to pay for her crimes? For the victims that the public had nothing to do with. But is this true? Was she really a victim of the mastermind Pho? Because that is totally possible. She was only 19, an age where you're very naive, you don't know what you're doing, and falling into someone that much older, he could have been very well be using her and her innocence, which I do believe partially is true. The thing is, there is no evidence to back up Lau's claims. Not only that, it was 20 years ago. What evidence would really be there? One thing the court said was that, well, why didn't she run away? There were so many chances. Lau was in charge of taking the money and running away. So it was partially true that she wasn't really present during the times when Pho was ending the lives of the victims. So why did Lau go to the safe place that the couple managed for themselves? Why did she not run away? Why did she not call the police herself? Was she really that naive and innocent herself?
One thing that was still debatable was if Lau actually killed Hua in revenge. I believe in one of the statements Lau claimed that Pho killed Hua before he left the apartment, so the story does go back and forth. I don't know if there was solid evidence out there for the court to prove who did this, but at the end, the court did not believe her.
The judges did not believe Lau's excuses, and they ended up sentencing her to death. But she has appealed recently. And the latest update is that the appeal is still going on. So we don't know what will happen. It's a really confusing case because it is possible what Lau is claiming, that she was so young and that she was manipulated. She was gaslighted by her mastermind boyfriend. She was a smart student. She was a teacher. How could something go so wrong with such a beautiful lady like that? So 1% part of me does say that maybe Pho was such a good manipulator that he was able to turn someone like her into the worst fugitives ever. But according to the story and the memos and the love letters that Lau left for Pho, it did seem like both of them were willingly participating in this relationship, and that it was truly close to more of Bonnie and Clyde, a business romance relationship, and they were both doing it willingly because they needed the money. The question also is, what do you guys think about this AI facial recognition system? The fact that an artificial intelligence system is able to literally capture your every single move and know who you are till the day you die. They were able to match this person's face 20 years older. So this AI system is not a joke. It's pretty correct if they were able to do this. But does this take away our freedom? They're already doing this in China and maybe some other countries. So not sure if this will be a much beneficial thing or whatnot. Let me know what you guys think. My light just turned off. I've been filming for so long. Remember to hit the like button, which helps out my channel so much, and hit that noti bell because if you're an early bird, I reply to all my early birds live watching my videos with you guys whenever it is uploaded. See you guys in my next video.